She walked into the lobby without fanfare. No bodyguards, no designer bags, just a denim jacket, a worn travel bag slung over her shoulder, and a simple baseball cap hiding her silver curls. The kind of entrance that didn't demand attention, but should have. Her name was Madeline Harris, 71 years old, a self-made CEO, owner of 19 hotels across the Southeast. Including this very building, the lobby smelled of lemon polish and expensive marble. A chandelier sparkled overhead, reflecting the success she had built over 4 decades. But success doesn't shield you from judgment. Not when your skin is dark, not when your clothes are simple, not when age has softened your features. Behind the polished front desk, a young receptionist glanced up. Her name tag read, Cara, early 20s, fresh out of hospitality school. Her eyes skimmed over Madeline. No recognition. No welcome smile, just a cold professional mask. "Can I help you?" Cara asked, her tone flat. Madeline smiled gently. "Yes, I need a suite for the night. Corner view, if possible." Cara's fingers tapped rapidly across the keyboard. Barely 30 seconds later, she looked up. "We're fully booked tonight." Madeline raised an eyebrow. "That's so?" Over Cara's shoulder, a large monitor glowed behind the desk. 5 rooms available. Bright green letters flashing softly. Cara didn't notice, or pretended not to. Madeline didn't argue. Not yet. She had dealt with this before. Too many times. Different faces. Same dismissive tone. Same assumptions. What Cara didn't know. Madeline's portrait hung just 15 feet away, framed in gold. The founder? The boss? The very woman who built the ground Cara was standing on. Madeline kept her posture calm. She'd learned long ago that anger gave them what they expected. Instead, she folded her hands gently on the counter. "Could you double-check?" she asked. Cara didn't hide her irritation. She let out a soft sigh, the kind young people give elders when they think they know better. "Our system is accurate, ma'am. There's a convention in town. We've got no rooms left." But the monitor behind her still flashed. "Available rooms. 5. Madeline glanced at it again. Same green letters. Same quiet truth. Cara noticed her looking and quickly clicked her mouse, switching the screen to the hotel's logo, covering the evidence. "Our system must be slow to update," Cara added, avoiding eye contact. Madeline nodded slowly. "I see." She could feel the weight of other eyes now. 2 housekeepers stood nearby, watching. One of them, a young woman named Elena, gripped her cleaning cart. Her eyes widened when she recognized Madeline, but she said nothing. Fear held her in place. Fear of being wrong. Fear of losing her job. Cara, meanwhile, had already moved on. "You might want to try the Gulfway Motel 2 blocks down," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "It's more affordable." Madeline felt the words like tiny cuts. She wasn't new to this. She remembered the early years, being turned away from hotels because of her skin tone, sleeping in her car, using public restrooms to freshen up before business meetings. She thought those days were behind her. She built this hotel chain so no one else would face that. But here it was again. New faces. Same old story. Cara leaned on the counter, her nails perfectly manicured. "Is there anything else I can help you with?" she asked, as if this conversation was over. But it wasn't. Not by a long shot. Madeline smiled, but there was no warmth left in it. "Yes, there is." Cara didn't flinch. She thought she had won. Another tired old woman brushed aside. Another person who didn't belong. But Madeline wasn't just another guest. She leaned slightly forward, her voice calm but firm. "Do you know who I am?" Cara frowned, confused. "No. Should I?" Madeline didn't answer right away. She simply tilted her head toward the wall behind the desk. Cara followed her gaze, and for a moment, confusion clouded her face. Then her eyes landed on a framed portrait. Madeline Harris. Founder and CEO. The very woman standing before her. Cara blinked. Her mouth opened, then closed. But before she could speak, Madeline continued. I am the reason this building stands. The reason you have a job. The reason that chandelier above your head isn't gathering dust in some warehouse. Silence rippled through the lobby. Guests glanced over from their seats. The housekeepers froze. Even the bellhop near the elevator paused, sensing the weight of the moment. Kara's face drained of color. She straightened her blazer, trying to recover, but it was too late. Madeline's eyes, sharp and unwavering, stayed fixed on her. When you looked at me, you didn't see a CEO. You didn't even see a guest. You saw someone who didn't belong. Because of my clothes. Because of my skin tone. Because of your assumptions. Kara's hands trembled slightly. I didn't mean... But you did. Madeline interrupted. You made a decision without asking questions. Without offering respect. The room felt heavier now. Not because of Madeline's words, but because they were true. And everyone knew it. The housekeeper Elena took a small step forward, eyes wide, but she still held back. Kara looked like she wanted to disappear, but Madeline wasn't finished. She pulled out her phone, her voice steady. I need to speak to operations. She didn't yell. She didn't need to. Power doesn't raise its voice. It simply calls, and people answer. Madeline didn't have to wait long. Less than 5 minutes after her quiet call, the lobby doors slid open. In walked Marcus Hill, the district operations director, mid-40s, tailored suit, eyes sharp. But when he spotted Madeline, his confident stride faltered. His face drained of color, just like Kara's had. Miss Harris, he breathed, rushing over. I wasn't aware you were visiting Tampa this week. Madeline kept her gaze steady. I wasn't planning to. But it seems my timing was necessary. Kara stood frozen behind the desk, lips parted but speechless. Marcus's eyes flicked to the monitor behind her. The screen now showed the hotel's logo, but he knew what it had said minutes earlier. He knew exactly what had happened. Madeline didn't bother explaining. She didn't need to. This young lady informed me there were no rooms available, Madeline said calmly. She even suggested a cheaper motel. Marcus's face tightened. He turned to Kara. Is this true? Kara swallowed hard. I thought we were fully booked. Did you check? Madeline asked. Or did you assume? Kara's lips trembled, but no sound came out. The other employees, Elena, the bellhop, even the security guard, stood silent. No one dared interrupt. Marcus moved swiftly. He stepped behind the desk, typed a few commands into the computer, and within seconds, a room key printed out. He handed it to Madeline with both hands. Penthouse suite. As always. Welcome back, Ms. Harris. But Madeline didn't take the key. Not yet. She looked past Marcus, past Kara, to the other staff. Her voice softened, but the authority remained. Before I accept that key, we're going to have a conversation. Marcus nodded. Of course. Shall we speak in private? Madeline shook her head. No, this isn't a private matter. It's a cultural one, and it's time we addressed it. Together. The lobby was silent now. Conversations had stopped. Luggage wheels had stilled. Even the distant hum of the elevators seemed to fade. Madeline stood tall, her denim jacket still dusted from travel, her cap shielding silver curls that had seen boardrooms and backrooms alike. She turned to face the staff fully. I want every available front office employee in the staff lounge. 15 minutes. Kara's eyes widened in panic. Marcus hesitated. Ms. Harris, it's after 9. Some of the team has already gone home. Madeline nodded. Then bring whoever's left. And if it's too late for some, we'll continue at 6 a.m. Marcus didn't argue. He motioned for another associate to take Kara's place at the desk. Kara stepped aside reluctantly, shoulders hunched, her earlier arrogance drained away. As the staff gathered their things, Madeline looked around the lobby, the same lobby she had fought to build. She had chosen the marble floor pattern herself, insisted on the textured blue wallpaper when the architects had wanted something safer. The art installations were from Black artists across the country. None of it was accidental. Every inch of this place reflected her values. Yet somehow, those values hadn't reached every corner. Not yet. Madeline caught Elena's eye, the housekeeper who had recognized her but stayed silent. Elena looked down, ashamed. Madeline didn't judge her. She understood the fear of speaking up, the fear of making things worse. But fear was the first enemy of change. As the staff slowly moved toward the lounge, Madeline stayed where she was. She wasn't here to create a scene. She was here to rebuild a foundation. And sometimes, foundations cracked when you least expected it. But that's when builders did their best work, rebuilding, stronger than before. 15 minutes later, the staff lounge filled with uneasy faces. Some wore uniforms, front desk blazers, housekeeping polos, security badges. Others clutched notepads, unsure if this was a meeting or a verdict. Kara sat furthest from the door, her posture small, shoulders rounded in defeat. Madeline didn't sit. She never sat when it was time to lead. She stood at the front of the room, her voice low but steady. I want to make something clear. This is not about shaming anyone. We are not here to talk about race. Not yet. Not even respect. We're here to talk about judgment. The room held its breath. No phones buzzed. No side conversations stirred. Judgment, Madeline continued, is what happens when your assumptions speak louder than your professionalism. It's what happens when a woman in sneakers is treated differently than a man in a suit. When skin tone and age make you decide who belongs and who doesn't. Kara's hands twisted in her lap. The housekeeper, Elena, kept her gaze lowered. The young bellhop by the door leaned forward, listening hard. I've walked into hotels like this in silk and diamonds. I've walked into them in jogging pants and old sneakers. My treatment, Madeline said, pausing to let the weight of her words settle, should not change based on that. And it should never change for anyone else either. She looked directly at Kara. Kara opened her mouth but then stopped. She had no defense. None that could erase the impact. Your intentions don't cancel the result, Madeline said gently, but firmly. You made someone feel like they didn't belong in a space they helped create. Imagine how many others you've made feel the same without even realizing. A heavy, reflective silence filled the room. The kind of silence that doesn't demand an answer, only accountability. And Madeline wasn't finished. Madeline turned to Marcus. Before we continue, I want to hear from the people who were there. Not managers, not supervisors, the staff. For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, Elena raised her hand. Her voice trembled. I recognized you. When you walked in, I knew who you were. But I didn't say anything. She swallowed hard, tears forming at the corners of her eyes. I was scared. I thought, maybe I was wrong. And if I spoke up, I might lose my job. Madeline nodded, not with disappointment, but with understanding. Thank you for your honesty. She scanned the room. This is what I need. Not perfection, not rehearsed answers, just truth. Kara shifted uncomfortably in her chair. Madeline addressed her directly. And what about you? Why did you assume I didn't belong here? Kara's voice was barely a whisper. I thought, based on how you looked, and because you didn't have a reservation, I thought you might be lost or... She trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Poor? Madeline offered, her tone calm. Kara nodded shamefully. I didn't mean to offend you. But you did, Madeline said softly. And that's the point. You didn't pause. You didn't ask. You didn't see a person. You saw a problem. The young bellhop spoke next. I wanted to say something too, but I wasn't sure it was my place. Madeline's eyes softened. It's always your place to speak when something doesn't sit right. Silence is not neutral. Silence is a decision. The room grew still again. But this time, it wasn't fear that held them. It was realization. Madeline took a breath. We will not let judgment become our culture. Not in this hotel. Not on my watch. Madeline's gaze swept the room, not with anger, but with purpose. "Elena," she said, turning to the housekeeper, "you recognize the issue. You felt the urge to speak, even if fear held you back. That matters." Elena's eyes widened, unsure what was coming next. "Fear is natural," Madeline continued. "But courage is a choice, and tonight you showed me you have it. Starting next week, you'll begin training for front desk supervisor. If you still want it?" Elena covered her mouth, tears spilling over. "Yes, ma'am. I'd be honored." Murmurs rippled through the room. The bellhop smiled faintly. Even Kara looked surprised. Madeline turned to her next. "Kara," she said, her voice steady but not cruel, "you made a mistake, a serious one. But mistakes are lessons waiting to be learned. I'm not firing you." Kara's shoulders sagged in relief. "But," Madeline added firmly, "you will step down temporarily. You'll shadow housekeeping, concierge, maintenance, and security for 2 weeks. I want you to see this hotel from every angle. Understand what it means to serve, not judge." Kara nodded quickly, voice trembling. "Yes, ma'am." "I will. And when you return to the front desk," Madeline continued, "you'll do so only after passing our new empathy and cultural awareness training. You'll earn your place back, not assume it." Marcus nodded his agreement. "We'll make sure the training is implemented across all departments." Madeline smiled, just slightly. "Good." Because tonight wasn't just about one employee's poor decision. It was about a system that allowed assumptions to become actions. She paused. "That ends now." The staff sat straighter. The energy in the room had shifted. No longer fear, but accountability, growth, and for the first time that night, hope. Madeline allowed the weight of her words to settle before speaking again. "This hotel carries my name, but names mean nothing without the values behind them." She paused, letting the staff absorb the gravity of what came next. "Starting tomorrow, we will introduce a new standard across every Roland property. It's called the 3-guest rules." She uncapped a marker and wrote on the whiteboard behind her. 1. Every guest deserves to feel seen. Not just noticed, seen. She underlined the word. 2. No guest should be judged by their appearance, accent, age, or ability to pay. Ever. Another line under the sentence. And 3. If something feels wrong, speak up. Silence is complicity. The bellhop, still standing near the door, nodded slowly. Elena wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders, already standing taller. Kara scribbled the rules into her notepad, her earlier defensiveness replaced by focus. "These rules," Madeline continued, "aren't just policies, they're protections. Protections against the creeping return of the very prejudices I built this hotel to fight." Marcus cleared his throat. "Miss Harris, would you like these added to our onboarding materials?" "Not added," Madeline corrected. "They will lead the onboarding materials. And I want every department head to review them monthly. Not as a checkbox, as a conversation." Murmurs of agreement circled the room. No one resisted. No one deflected. Madeline's presence, the steadiness of her tone, the clarity of her purpose, left no room for excuses. She turned to Kara one last time. "Tomorrow morning, you'll reapply for your position. Not as a punishment, as a commitment to prove that you understand why what happened tonight can never happen again." Kara nodded. "I understand." "Good," Madeline replied. "Then let's rebuild this foundation, together." That night, Madeline finally accepted the penthouse key from Marcus. But instead of heading straight to the elevator, she paused at the front desk. She turned to Elena and the bellhop. "I expect you both in tomorrow's leadership meeting. We'll need fresh eyes and honest voices moving forward." They nodded, pride and determination, replacing their earlier hesitation. As Madeline rode the elevator to the 12th floor, she reflected on the night's events. This wasn't just about a room. It was about legacy. About making sure that the values she built her empire on didn't get lost beneath polished floors and corporate policies. When the elevator doors opened, The private hallway greeted her with soft lighting and quiet elegance. Her suite waited at the end. The same suite she had designed herself after decades of sleeping in rooms that never felt like they truly welcomed her. She stepped inside, set her bag down, and walked to the large window overlooking the city. Lights stretched out into the night. Countless lives, countless stories, each deserving of dignity. A soft knock broke her thoughts. She opened the door to find Elena standing there, a tray in her hands. "Ma'am," she said nervously, "I thought you might want some of the tomato bisque, the recipe you created for the menu years ago." Madeline smiled, warmth finally softening the edges of the long day. "Thank you, Elena. That's very thoughtful." As she sat down at her desk with the soup, she pulled out a notepad, the same one she'd carried since the first hotel opening. On the back cover were 3 questions she asked herself after every major decision. She read them quietly. Did every guest feel seen? Did every employee feel valued? Would my mother be proud if she walked in tonight? Tonight, despite everything, the answer was yes, but the work wasn't done. It never was. She took a spoonful of soup, still perfect after all these years. Then she reached for a pen and began drafting a letter that would be sent to every Roland property by morning. A letter that reminded every employee, your uniform doesn't give you power. How you treat people does. And with that, she closed the notepad, finished her soup, and prepared for the next day. Legacy wasn't a name on a building. Legacy was what people remembered when no one was watching. If this story stayed with you, take a moment to think about the way you treat people, especially when no one's watching. And if Madeline's story meant something to you, leave a comment. Tell us, have you ever been judged because of how you looked? Like, share, and subscribe, because there are more stories just like this one. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.